When the discussion about Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez comes up, the opinions move back and forth constantly. One moment people lean toward Canelo because of his sheer size, strength, and reputation, and the next moment Crawford's self-belief, conviction, and track record sway them. Many boxing insiders admit that when Crawford speaks, he convinces everyone around him that victory is inevitable. His confidence is not superficial. It's built on years of proving people wrong. But then you look at Canelo at the press conferences, you see the way he carries himself, the physical presence, the bulk, and the calmness of someone who has been on the biggest stages again and again, and suddenly it becomes difficult to bet against him. That is why the predictions are so divided. People lean one way, then shift the other. On paper, Canelo should be the favorite. He is naturally bigger, heavier, and physically stronger. If he lands clean punches, he could hurt Crawford badly. Crawford has never fought in this division before. He has only one fight at 154 pounds and didn't look particularly dominant. Jumping up 2 divisions to fight someone like Canelo is a massive challenge. It is the kind of risk that either makes you a legend or proves the critics right. But despite that, several fighters and analysts believe Crawford has something special that goes beyond size and weight. Even fighters like Chris Eubank Jr. have been vocal. He admitted that he was originally leaning toward Canelo because of his power and stature, but then found himself drawn back to Crawford because of how convincing Bud sounds whenever he talks. Eubank has also been clear about his own ambitions. After settling his business with Conor in a rematch, he wants to test himself against either Alvarez or Crawford in 2026. For him, it's about chasing the biggest fights and being part of history. When asked directly about Crawford's chances of moving up to face Canelo, Eubank didn't hesitate to say he thinks Crawford wins. He described him as different, almost alien-like in his skill set and mentality. He admires Crawford not just for his fighting ability, but also for his story, his discipline, and what he stands for in the sport. That makes Crawford inspirational to other fighters as well. Other pros echo similar thoughts. They say Crawford has something unique in the way he switches stances, the way he uses both right and left hands effectively, and how he constantly adjusts inside the ring. Even if they aren't sure whether he will win or lose against Canelo, they would definitely support him because of his talent and ability to pull off the impossible. Many stress that if anyone can beat Canelo, it is Crawford. Even Alexander Usyk, the heavyweight champion known for his own technical brilliance, gave his verdict. Usyk believes Crawford has the necessary tools to win. Coming from someone who knows what it takes to move up in weight and succeed against bigger men, that opinion adds a lot of weight. Usyk's belief adds even more intrigue to the matchup, because he is not one to give out empty praise. There are of course concerns about size. Canelo is big, naturally strong, and has been competing at the highest levels in heavier divisions for years. Some argue that the weight difference will be too much to overcome. But others insist that Crawford's intelligence, his feel for distance, and his ability to adapt will allow him to neutralize some of that size. Crawford doesn't rely on brute strength. He relies on timing, adjustments, and ring IQ. That is why some pros insist he can still pull it off, even against a bigger man like Canelo. Chris Eubank Jr.'s comments highlight the distinction between hype and reality. Canelo is the money fight, the pay-per-view name, the global superstar. But when fighters talk about Crawford with the same level of respect, it shows that Bud is not just hype. He is the danger man, the one that fighters know can truly end careers. While Canelo brings the business, Crawford brings the fear and respect. Robert Garcia, one of the most respected trainers, believes Crawford's skills could allow him to take control of the fight. He has emphasized Crawford's speed, intelligence, and composure, saying these attributes could allow him to outbox Canelo over 12 rounds. Garcia's perspective is important because he knows the value of skill over raw power. For him, knockout power isn't the only factor in elite fights. Skills and brains decide outcomes at that level, and in his opinion, Crawford has more than enough to win on points. Former champion Duke McKenzie adds that Crawford's confidence is not just blind arrogance, it is based on logic. He points to history where fighters moving up in weight sometimes became even stronger and more effective. McKenzie thinks Crawford's style is actually suited for such a move. While Canelo is durable, Crawford's sharpness and discipline could carry him to a points victory. He even argues that in terms of class, Crawford is the more refined fighter. Promoter Eddie Hearn has voiced skepticism. He asks the big question, how is Crawford going to bridge such a big weight gap? Crawford started at lightweight, went through 140, then 147, then had a single fight at 154, and now wants to fight at 168. At some point, Hearn argues there's a step too far, and 168 is that point. Still, Hearn acknowledges Crawford's brilliance. He calls him a generational great and admits that if anyone could find a way to do it, it would be Crawford. But he warns that Crawford would have to rely heavily on movement and avoid standing and trading with Canelo. Hearn's analysis is that Crawford would need to box, move, and frustrate Canelo with sharp counters rather than engage in exchanges. Lennox Lewis, the former heavyweight great, recognizes Crawford's discipline and IQ. For him, what separates Crawford from others is not just talent, but the way he prepares with absolute focus. He sees Crawford as a dangerous opponent for anyone because of his elusiveness, work rate, and tactical adjustments. Coming from someone who ruled the heavyweight division, Lewis's recognition of Crawford underlines just how serious Bud's chances are. Tony Bellew also weighed in, pointing out that Canelo fights at his own pace and rhythm. Against Crawford, he won't be allowed that luxury. Bellew believes Crawford will disrupt Canelo's rhythm, outwalk him, pot-shot him, and ultimately win on points. Bellew makes it clear that if Canelo does somehow win, it would be historic because nobody has ever managed to beat Crawford. But his true belief is that Crawford's intelligence and work rate will neutralize Canelo's style. Joe Rogan's opinion has shifted over time. Initially, he dismissed Crawford's chances, saying Canelo was too big and that weight classes exist for a reason. But after seeing Crawford's training footage and hearing insights from experts, Rogan admitted that Bud's preparation, timing, and IQ made him reconsider. Rogan now sees that Crawford is not just climbing up recklessly. He is bringing his discipline, timing, and technical sharpness with him, making the weight narrative less important. Oscar de la Hoya, however, strongly disagrees. He mocks the idea, saying it is laughable to think Crawford could move up 2 weight classes to face a natural light heavyweight like Canelo. He points to Crawford's tough fight against Israel Madrimov as evidence, saying if Crawford struggled there, what chance would he have against Canelo? De la Hoya insists Canelo would run him out of the ring. But history shows that Crawford thrives when doubted. Against Errol Spence, critics said Spence was too big and too strong, yet Crawford dismantled him. De La Hoya calls it laughable, but many feel this kind of underestimation is exactly what Crawford uses to fuel his performances. Trainer Stephen Edwards provides a more grounded take. He reminds everyone that no chin is unbreakable, not even Canelo's. While Canelo has been praised for his durability, Edwards stresses that any fighter can be hurt on the right night with the right punch. Crawford, with his ability to switch stances and land accurate shots, is dangerous from start to finish. Edwards sees him not as a smaller man trying to survive, but as a predator capable of exploiting weaknesses and hurting Canelo if the opportunity arises. Tyson Fury, though staying mostly neutral, praised Crawford by calling him awesome and exceptional. Fury's perspective is interesting because he knows the significance of size advantages. If he thought size was truly the deciding factor, he would have emphasized it more. Instead, he focused on Crawford's belief, adaptability, and skill. That shows he views the fight as genuinely competitive rather than a mismatch. Fury respects both fighters but highlights that Crawford's self-belief is as dangerous as his technical skill. Crawford's longtime trainer Brian "Bomack" McIntyre also shared insight into how the fight might unfold. He explained that Crawford always starts cautiously, studying his opponents, observing their patterns, and slowly breaking them down. McIntyre predicts the same approach against Canelo. The first few rounds may look cautious, but then Crawford will begin to take over, just as he did against Spence, Kell Brook, and Sean Porter. His confidence is not bluster. It's based on years of watching Crawford adapt and dominate once he figures an opponent out. Nutrition, preparation, and strategy are emphasized heavily by McIntyre. He believes by the time Crawford steps into the ring, everything will be running perfectly, and the fight will feel like easy pickings. That calm confidence reflects their camp's mindset. They aren't worried about size. They are focused on execution. This fight, many agree, is about more than belts. It is about legacy. If Terence Crawford wins, he cements himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time, overcoming size, history, and odds in one night. He would join the select group of fighters who prove that skill and IQ can conquer physical disadvantages. If Canelo wins, he reclaims his aura as boxing's kingpin and silences those who question his decline. Either way, the fight is monumental. So the split in opinions continues. Some like Eddie Hearn, De La Hoya, and others insist size is too much. Others like Usyk, Garcia, Lewis, and Edward C. Crawford's skill is enough to overcome. Fighters like Eubank Jr. are inspired by Crawford's belief. Analysts like McKenzie stress his class. Commentators like Rogan have been forced to rethink, and legends like Fury give Crawford equal footing in praise. It all comes down to hunger, discipline, and mental strength. Crawford has shown time and again that doubt only fuels him. Canelo has shown resilience, durability, and power, but also signs of slowing down with stamina issues and predictable patterns. The fight is a clash of styles, skills, and legacies. Fans are left to choose. Are they backing Terence Crawford to make history, or do they believe Canelo Alvarez will prove once again that size and power cannot be denied?